Do you not think that all of them actually contradict one another?
Contradict?
All of the idea contradict one another.
To a point.
Yeah.
There's flaws in many of the points of view. In terms of some might be a bit repressive. Some might be not protecting human rights, rights of women, for example. The same with the Catholic faith. There are quite a number of flaws in that. But at the end of the day, I think it's the best we've got. It's got something to do with their heart, mind, and soul, to give people a little bit of hope. Because if you didn't have these things, that not only can life on the planet be a little bit easier, these faiths give people a moral code. And if you're outside of that, where's the morality?
Yeah,
it's lacking.
I can see your experience on dealing with this different type of religion, and what I normally say that every faith actually give hope to their own people, but this does not necessarily mean all of them are truth. Do you know why they cannot be all of the truth? Because if you look at the belief of each of them, actually contradicting one another. For example,
I'm not going to go down the path of saying that one's better than the other.
No, I'm not saying better than other.
Because I think they're all valid in their own way, and they're all got their weaknesses and strengths.
My point is not better than one another. My point is what is truth and what is false. Imagine if I can say I am a man, and if someone say I am not a man, the other person is not right, either of them. Either I'm a man or I am something else. But if I'm a man, then the other person is right.
You know that just the very word man is a category.
Well,
as in a biological concept, which in itself is created by science, by man. The construction of our society, our planet, of our education, of what do we understand by things. Somebody a long time ago said, "Oh, this is a male, this is a female." Even to the extent of in language, there are masculine, feminine.
Yeah. No. But you get my example, right? Did you get my example?
In terms of what's right and what's wrong, what's true, what's not true.
So if someone is man,
yeah.
Let's say he's a man, right?
Yeah.
And you say he's not a man, and I'm saying he's a man.
Yeah.
So we both are not right. Either he's a man or he's not a man.
Right.
Right. So we both cannot be right at the same time. The same way, when we look at the claims of the religion itself, I don't disagree that there are good people who exist within the religion of different religion. They're generally good people out there in Christianity, in Islam, and there are bad people in all the religions as well. But as a seeker of the truth, our object should be based on an objective approach, examining the belief, examining the practice, not examining the people itself. Examining what is the core belief of self. Like for example, Islamic core belief, Allah tells us that there is only one God and you should worship the same God. And do not give the share of worship to anybody else. Very simple, plain and clear. But on the other hand, when you look at
lines of the Quran, isn't it?
The first line actually, Allah tells us that Iqra, read in the name of your Lord. But if you look at the beginning of the chapter, Bismillah in the name of God who's Rahim. Yes, good. So we're referring Allah is the one who is merciful, who is kind.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
No,
because that touches the soul straight away.
Absolutely. And that shows that if the soul was made by the Allah, that His word should also touch it. That's another way to know that the Quran is a word of God. Therefore, if Quran say follow a particular way, the other way must be wrong because the Quran is telling us how others is wrong. Like for example, when Prophet Muhammad was communicating with his own people in Arabia, so they are worshipping statues and stones.
That's right, yeah.
Do you know what argument he gave them? Why do you worship that? And they said, we have seen our forefather following it. Then, of course, he asked them.
That habit or culture, it's a cultural
tradition. Yeah. So they didn't give the answer from the rational point of view. Rather, they given from an emotional, how can I leave my forefather? Do you see what I'm saying? But he engages them. Do you not think that if the stone is already dead, how can you help itself to you? It cannot even help himself. So this is how God sent prophets and messenger, so guided people to the truth with a with slightly you applying the common sense that God given us. Therefore, if you say socially, I would like to accept all the faith. I mean, Islam, we are not denying any faith's acceptance as following their own way. Like Allah said that there is no compulsion in religion. Meaning, if a Christian want to follow his faith, let them follow his faith. Ask him, share the message of truth. If he accept it, good. If he doesn't accept it, leave it. Because Allah is the owner and He will judge him, right? So, as a
It
Muslim,
might well have been written before that conversation even took place, before even our conversation.
of course,
because
that's what I believe. That's
there
what
is a belief. I've heard this.
exactly.
Yes.
So, one of the six beliefs
It's
is
already
God
been
knows.
decided.
Already, He knows everything. So, we say Allah's ability is one of the attributes of Allah is His Al-Alim, meaning which all-knowing, meaning everything will take place in future and what happened, everything within His knowledge. So none of the things happening without His knowledge. So that shows that God is completely all aware of the situation and all knowing. At the same time, He is all wise because He created for us a purpose to worship Him. So that when we look at His attribute, then we realize what we need to do, because He is showing mercy, and then we have to think, should I not be grateful?
Should I not be?
Should I not be grateful? If someone, right, imagine, this is the nature within us. When someone give you a drink, I just say thank you. Out of graciousness, we say thank you. So when we look at the totality of our life, the things we have received already with free, we didn't give money to God, right? It's all given us free. Are we actually giving thanks to Him in a way that pleases Him?
Not when you look at the economies that we've got. They're all about exploiting the poor and making money for a small number of people.
Yeah.
I think that we're not living in fair times. We never lived in fair times, I don't think. So I do think that I think that the Quran, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, sets out a way of living life that distributes a little bit fairer.
You touched upon one of the pillar of Islam. One of the pillar.
Charity, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the pillar of Islam, meaning, if we have a foundation in a building, if there is one pillar damaged, the building would collapse. The same way, when we look at zakat,
I think that's there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Because
like,
we're all interdependent.
Yes.
If you don't look after the weakest, then we're not really very strong, are we?
No.
And then that actually weakens the whole of society. And we have a very weak society.
Yeah, zakat something means something to be
Zakat,
purified.
yes.
Yeah. So the idea is to taking it from the rich, giving it to the poor.
Does that happen in Islamic societies?
It does.
I mean, there's.
Yeah, it does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Because there are some governments and leaders in Islamic societies that I think are very rich, and some parts of the population that are in poverty, and where the law is not necessarily fair to some people, and some people are imprisoned for simply trying to live a fair life. For example, women in Saudi Arabia who are not able to drive a car, who have
But
to be
they can now.
chaperoned.
They can.
Well,
They can now. Do you know that?
As I understand it,
No,
they're
they
still
can.
being picked up,
They-
even though on the face
No,
of it.
they can. They can. I was in Saudi 2 months ago, and I've seen the women are driving. So that's not the case. The case here, let's go back where we're talking about the zakat, right? Which you brought forward.
Yeah, and if there was mercy and charity,
No,
which
no,
I think
I'll-
should extend to every
allow
men,
me-
women, child.
Allow me
old.
to address my point. Allow
Yeah,
me to
sorry,
address my
go
point.
on.
So when we're talking about the Islamic principle, is plain and simple, and the Muslims generally are practicing it. Out of all the religion, you will find some good people and bad people. You have a good example, bad example. So I cannot use someone who is, let's say, who's a bad person and he's a Muslim. I cannot use him for an advocate of Islam. We're gonna look at the role model. Who are the role model? The prophets and the messenger. Because these are the criteria, or these are the people we should look up to, not the people Tom, Dick and Harry claiming to be a Muslim. I do not even know whether he prays or not. I do not even know whether he's a genuine
You
Muslim or not.
sometimes don't know in
Exactly,
private,
exactly.
yeah.
The whole point of idea is, if you look at Ramadan, we in Muslim communities spend millions of pounds every day in the mosque. People raise money to support the poor and needy in all over the world. And even if you look at the Charity Commission, they release articles that how Muslims are so charitable. You know, there are many, if you look at all over the world, the Muslims are the most charitable people on the planet. Why? Because Allah tells us that rich should give it to the poor so that the society will be balanced.
Is it a tenth? A tenth
No, no,
of
no,
the
no,
of
no,
the
no,
wealth
no,
or the income?
no, 2.5% of your excessive income. Meaning,
2.5%. Okay.
imagine if you have £100 saved throughout the whole year.
It's fair though.
Yeah. Now you are only from your saving, not from your earning. Not from your earning,
Not from your savings.
from your savings, whatever you have
You could get
extra
around
remaining
that. You
left.
could get around that, couldn't you? If you
Yeah, so
wanted to.
let's say we Muslim, like normally we don't just say, oh, let's give me pinpoint accurate 2.5%. No, people are generous, they give more, but don't give less, give more. Because if we give more, Allah saying He will reward us, right? And Allah constantly telling us that the one who disbelieves in the day of judgment is the one who doesn't give charity. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدعو
I do
اليتيم.
think that on our last day, or whatever happens next, is we will be weighed up
Yeah.
to our act,
Exactly.
behavior.
Everything will be scaled. Everything will be
What
scaled.
did you do in your life?
Yes, correct.
Was it meaningful?
No.
Or who did you turn away from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, when a faith comes to you in a realistic manner, and you know this is the truth, out of all this model exists, then it is an important point that we should take a steps towards that, because there is a consequence with the belief. So belief doesn't come without a consequences, because
There's consequences to
Yes.
everything that we do and think. Yeah?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
in our life, everything has a consequences. If you
Yeah,
do good, you'll be rewarded. If you do something bad, you will be punished. The same way Allah tells us that He created heaven and hell. So heaven will be those who believe and do good. Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, those who believe and do good deed. And Allah said, the one who does not believe, meaning belief comes with action. If someone doesn't believe in God, he would not worship God. So therefore, everything he received, he actually done an injustice towards God.
I hesitate on things like good and bad.
Yeah.
Because we're human. And what's happened is that in some of
Does
the,
it make
some of
sense
the
though?
religions,
Does it
is
make
that
sense
some
though?
things that are human are termed bad. Just living your life as a human being in terms of cravings and in terms of, you have to eat, you want to meet someone, can you only have relationships within a marriage? Why should it be like that? So I think that there's question marks over why is the human existence feel like it's made very narrow there's only a certain way that's acceptable, socially acceptable, religiously acceptable. So I sometimes think, whoa, that doesn't. There are a lot of people who feel outside of that.
I think.
So I think that doesn't necessarily help humanity or how people feel about their own existence, about what humanity is. So this idea of what is good sometimes is very narrow, and then suddenly there's lots of people who are judged on this earth to be bad, and who shouldn't be judged by man. At the end of the day, as you said, who is the only judge?
Yeah.
It's God
Right.
himself.
So I'm going to give you 3 points on what you were saying. So when you saying, if you look at a religious or a social point of view, if you have a narrow road, it's very difficult for the humanity to follow, right? So the question is, when someone is defining a way, a road for us, is it us we can derive this road, or is it the maker of us who will derive that? That's the fundamental question. If the maker of us derived this narrow path, then we cannot say anything.
I feel that's helpful, because I think
No, I say
because I think a lot of people are messed up, and a lot of people
Now imagine,
probably need a bit of guidance.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I'm not so sure whether a lot of other people
But
would accept that.
do you get my point?
I do, yeah.
Because if all of the points are correct, then what is the difference between good and bad? Imagine if God allowed all drink to be allowed, including alcohol. That would be a detrimental effect on our society in a whole.
I get that as
right,
well.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
'cause it is.
So
It's a
so
very-
now,
yeah.
so these example actually demonstrate that everything cannot be right. All the path cannot be right. So therefore, there are certain paths God defined out of His knowledge and wisdom, and then we can reflect on it. Like I
But
cannot
to be
agree.
honest, just going back a little bit about
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in London.
Yeah.
London's got a history of
Yeah.
drinking.
Mm.
It's all around you at the minute,
Yeah.
and that's what
But-
makes a lot of people happy. Happy in a very kind of short-term, immediate kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
They want something satisfying there
Yeah.
and then, or escape.
Yeah.
from problems, or actually when they're out with people, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has a dark side.
But,
Like
but
violence,
you know what Allah said? You
and
know what Allah
addiction
said?
and other things.
You know what Allah said? Allah said people think something is good for them, but actually harmful for them. And
That's where it gets a bit difficult, isn't it?
no.
Well, what's good for
I'm
you,
going to
what's
use
not
the
good
same
for you?
example.
Because
I'm gonna,
there are
now imagine.
Sugar's not good for you if you have too much sugar.
I mean, Allah tells us everything in a balance, right? He created
Right,
everything in a
okay,
balance, right?
okay.
Allah said, "La tuqsurul mizan." Everything in balance. Do not destroy the balance. So when we are talking about alcohol, right?
I think
So
balance is
let's
a good
stick to the
point.
yeah. Let's stick with the alcohol. Like alcohol, someone is drinking it. It can relieve for a temporary moment. Yeah, it's an illusion created. It creates an illusion. It forget you about the pain. Does the pain actually gone away? No. It's actually relieving and temporal pain. But what it does, it harming the kidney, it harming the livers, it makes a detrimental effect. Because of that alcohol, we have so many families are broken because of the drug addict, domestic abuse. So look, when we look at the command of God, you might say, oh, why he is telling us not to drink it? But when we look at those people are drinking it, are they happy? No, they are not.
I think we're back in Muhammad's time. Before then, I think people saw the effects of damage of alcohol. Then that you might not be able to work, you might not be able to provide food for your family or yourself. You might be constantly drinking. Then you actually change the way you think and the personality. So I think it's been known for centuries, really. But it's not stopped people. And it's everywhere, isn't it? It's
so happiness cannot be defined from a subjective reasoning, because if you look at subjective reasoning, it will lead you to the wrongdoing.
Happiness is a feeling, isn't it? So it's subjective, isn't it?
It is subjective. So but we realize that this happiness actually does not change our life in any shape or form. It's actually detrimental while I'm thinking is happiness. Imagine you drink alcohol.
Well, it's not a solid thing, is it?
It is.
It moves.
It's an illusion. It's an illusion.
It moves around like feelings.
It's a false
Ups and
dichotomy.
downs,
Yes.
cycles. Yeah.
It's a false understanding. It's a false notion.
Well, not necessarily, because I mean, people want to be happy, don't they?
No. But
people want to be happy in there. A lot of people, that's their main thing that they're seeking, isn't it?
Imagine, let's say you have a 10-year-old son, and he said, "I want to drink alcohol to be happy." Would you want to give them?
I'm not just thinking about alcohol. I'm thinking about.
No, I'm just using because this is very important understanding.
All right.
Let's say your son say he's a 10 years old. Would you say he said, "I want to be happy like you. I want to drink alcohol." Would you give it to him?
Okay, so now you're acting as a parent.
No. The reason I'm bringing it, but do you want?
You're not as a 10-year-old, but then there's a question of at what point in their life do they become a free agent to make choices for themselves?
Now,
but I would.
I'll give it.
First, I
wouldn't
want a 10-year-old.
Okay, so you would not give it.
Mentally and physically, they're not.
Exactly. So
they're going to have problems with it.
Exactly. So now you realize, as an external agent, his happiness is not the real happiness, because you realize it can be a detrimental effect. Now, same way, when you look at the creation as a totality, God knows, even if we are conscious and a fully grown man, those criminal things are happening in the world due to alcohol. They are all matured age. It's not 10-year-old is making that. Look at like thousands of journals has been written, the effect of alcohol. And this study was done on who? These are the mature individuals who are, once upon a time, they are good and good mind, right? But when they consume alcohol, they have a behavior change, and that behavior change affected the society.
It can do, but I mean, it's not.
I
don't necessarily say it's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing. I'll tell you why. Now imagine if you think about.
It can be harmful.
No,
but it doesn't mean that.
It's harmful collectively. I'll tell you why.
Collectively.
So now, if the things does not impact collectively, I would say, okay, that's not a problem. It's just affecting him. But alcohol actually affecting the whole society. Because imagine in a relationship, a husband is a drug addict, an alcoholic, right? He will affect his children because he will be abusive towards children. So the home will.
The two don't necessarily. One doesn't necessarily need to know that. It can do.
No.
It has a risk.
This is happening.
It can do, but it's not everybody's affected by alcohol in the same way. Some people have more control over it. Some people stop and then don't. It doesn't mean that you drink alcohol, therefore you're going to be abusive to your family and other things. But it could do.
But I'm saying what is not can and could. What is the real effect happening in the society? I'm saying that. It's not about how much control you have. I'm saying If we look at the single families, single parents, you will find most of them in some way or shape or form, alcohol is related to their life. Look at any broken family, you will find this.
So if you have when families are falling apart and there's lots of things can be going on.
Exactly.
It might be that. It might be mental health.
So
it might be drugs.
no, but
or
we
it might
have
be somebody's been living with problems since they were a kid, the way they were raised, etc. Could be a whole load of.
we have to go back to the root cause of it. The idea is not, when you have a headache, we have to, or something, a pain in your stomach, we cannot just give him a painkiller. We have to examine where is the root cause of it, right?
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we look at this
Because otherwise
problem,
you're just dealing with what the thing on the surface.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the alcohol is a root problem created in the society. So that's why Allah said one of the maqasid, there are 5 maqasid in the Sharia, meaning the way of life. Allah have 5 things, which is one of the things is the protection of the human beings. In order to protect the human
again?
maqasid.
Maqasid.
Maqasid means the objective or
the protection of
your protection of human life, sanctity of human life, protection of the religion, protection. So it's kind of a wider protection. Imagine, let's say there are some good in it and some bad in it. So how are you gonna address this? So for the maqasid of Sharia goes like that. Anything harmful, Allah prohibits it, so that it will not harm you. The same way, say for example, we have hundreds of different types of juice, like apple juice, mango juice, right? All of them drinks are allowed. So God didn't forbid it. And it's actually nutritious, it's good for health. And Allah is encouraging to have those drinks.
Although some things produce, some foods that we're eating produce things like high cholesterol.
Yeah, but Allah said
cancers, etc.
No, but Allah said everything in moderation. So Allah didn't say, oh, go, because meat is halal and allowable. That does not necessarily mean we have to eat meat every day, because too much meat consumption can lead to obesity and other disease, right? So we have to eat in a moderation.
Everybody's going to struggle with some of these things, aren't they?
Yeah. So,
like, some people just like food, and wouldn't want to be told, oh, is it not Islamic to eat too much meat?
Yeah,
Is that message going to be easy to hear? And there's somebody who really enjoys eating lots of lamb going to think, oh, do I really want to hear this now? Because this is what I like.
No, but we demonstrated this. Liking does not necessarily the truth. When we're talking about happiness and the truth, they are two different things.
Yeah. But I do think what you said earlier about balance is actually a healthy
Exactly.
But it's very difficult, very challenging for most people. Most people are not living like that, even though they might say, I agree with you.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
You asked me to do that day in, day out. Most people, you just have to look on Facebook, social media, and that things like for diets, people have problems with weight control, things that they think, oh, this is not healthy for me, but and these are just lawful, natural things that are not necessarily banned, but or perhaps means that person doesn't feel in balance.
Yeah. So that's why, our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he has a habit. So when he used to eat, he used to fill 1/3 with the food, 1/3 with the water, and he leave 1/3 empty.
I've come across an idea like that. You do not eat until you're full.
So that shows a very healthy diet, right? Because when you overeat, what it does, you cannot function, you cannot work, you cannot concentrate on the things that essential in your life. So that's why it's very important what you eat. And Islam encourages us to limit our diet. Do not excessively full, or do not too much, oh, I'm not going to eat anything. No, stay on the middle, because Allah created everything in a balance. Stay on the balance. Do not go either extreme. So in the same way, when we come to the religious terms, Allah tells us that I have created you for a purpose, and everything I laid out as a legislation, you will find this is the best option you have. So follow and submit to the Creator, and follow the process that I have given you. This will be good for you in this world and good for you afterwards. But when people try to say, nah, my way is better, then we examining their way, and then we find, no, they actually looking for the illusion as defined as happiness, which actually contradicting to the truth that we have available through our rational reasoning. That's why Allah saying, are you going to submit to your nafs, meaning your desire, or are you going to submit to the will of mine? Because Allah saying, I am created you from nothing, and you will be coming back to me. The way I created you, I can recreate you again. So you're not going anywhere.
I hear that. And it's in terms of following your own, what might seem selfish or very individual path, but it's very difficult to think that, okay, here we have to have that belief or faith in a maker that you think, okay, I'm having to follow something that's centuries old, but it's not necessarily communicating to me in this day and age. And I'm being asked to follow something that was set out, how many years ago? 1300?
1400.
1300 years ago in this kind of crazy world.
Trust me. Everything was said out by Prophet Muhammad is applicable to this day. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. And I want you to think hardly. It's a very good example. Very good. In the time of Prophet, there was a tradition. They used to bury their daughter lives. If there is bury their daughter. So in a newborn, they used to bury the newborn.
Oh, the newborn. Okay.
This is horrific, right?
But when they were alive?
Yeah, they were alive. They used to bury them alive because of the daughter. Because they say, okay, men are the proud thing.
Right.
They can be a poet. They can be a poet. They can be a warrior.
Still done now.
So right
in some
now,
places.
right now, Allah revealed verse to Prophet Muhammad, and Allah said, tell them not to bury that because I is the one who gave life, and I'm gonna protect that. So the life belongs to me, meaning I give life. So why you are taking a life that given by Allah, right? That's not your right. So you can't kill. Allah said, "Wala taqtulu awladakum khashyata imlaq." Do not kill your children in fear of poverty. Now, the same thing happening all over the world.
Yeah.
But they didn't have that facility to abort babies. Nowadays, we're doing through a clinical process, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So the idea actually shifted, but the concept doesn't change. Do you see? People have this, Allah always talk about the people's indecency. The form of indecency may change, but the principle never change. Because people done dodgy things in the scale in back in the days. Nowadays, people are doing smart way, in a modern technology.
Being applicable now, even
exactly.
though it's almost the same issue. But what I'm saying is that we're talking about trying to live life using rules from 1400 years ago with a maker that is how far do we know that is guiding us in the here and now, this century, right now in 2024. It sometimes feels disconnected. Is that
But you can be connected. Do you know how? But when you read the Quran, believe me or not, you will not find a single verse that doesn't apply. That tells you that Quran is not an obsolete book.
Single verse.
Not a single verse. Because every verse, there is a reason. There are stories there. Stories there for us to reflect. For example, we have stories of Abraham communicating with the people. That who should we follow the true God? Should we follow sun because sun is bigger? Should we follow the star or should we follow the moon? Then he was reasoning with those around and he intellectually convinced and showed them all of these things you have seen. These are controlled by someone else. So they can't be the controller. The controller is someone who's unseen, who is beyond the realm of our.
You're saying this is what you're saying now is written in the Quran.
Yes.
I quite like what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. So this is the story of Abraham. Controller. So the one who managed the affair. So Allah mentioned the term called Yudabbirul Amr.
There's 99 names for Allah.
Yes, 99.
Controller, one of them.
No, Allah is. You can say controller. You would say the best goals would be Al-Qayyum, means sustainer. Meaning managing everything is providing, sustaining.
That's very different. Sustainer to controller, isn't it?
Controller meanings, I would say, there are many names.
Director almost controller.
Yudabbirul Amr. So Allah, Yudabbirul Amr, manages the affairs. Yudabbirul Amr. He is the one who, Amr means through his command he can control everything.
Is it? Okay, right.
Yeah. So 99 names is not just 99. This is, you can have we call it famous 99 names. But Allah has more than 99 names. but these are famous.
I suppose what I'm saying as well is that in terms of
But do you-
finding it difficult to relate to a maker, I'm not saying necessarily personally because we've had this conversation, so I actually have quite strong feelings, positive feelings about the conversation that we just had. So I've actually quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But in terms of,
I'm glad that you enjoyed the conversation and you can take something from the conversation and think for yourself. Look, because we are in a journey, and the journey, once we die, then as a Muslim we believe we will be questioned. In the day of judgment we will be questioned. And then we have the two destinations. And imagine if someone tells you there is fire in the Stratford station, and you realize it is fire in Stratford station. What would you do?
well, you're already being told that there's a possible danger, aren't you? So
You should avoid.
yeah.
So the same way Allah is keep mentioning every other pages of the Quran that do not approach yourself to the danger zone. If you believe Allah and do righteous works, then Allah will not punish you. Because Allah is saying, why should I punish someone? Allah telling in the Quran, why should I punish someone?
Allah is merciful.
Merciful. Now, the punishment befalls on who someone deliberately want punishment to be befall on him. Now imagine if someone whole of his life drink water, knowing that a single drop cannot be made by any human being, and this came from somewhere else. Then when I buying that from Tesco, I am actually not buying the water, I'm buying their service. Because they cannot make that water. Nobody in the planet can make the water. Allah is the one who is the source of creation. He makes the water. Then look at the millions of times we receive that blessing just for the water.
It sustains life. Yeah.
Sustains life. Talk about oxygen. Not a single penny we have given to anybody for the free oxygen. Now, when Allah will bring back everything, but all the mercy that He bestowed you in the day of judgment, and He said to you, yet you disobeyed me, yet you rejected me, yet you, when the messenger come to you, you rejected him. And then for convincing the message to be convinced, I given you rational evidences, the proof, the prophecy of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quran's, the preservation, exactly preserved book. So all of the things I kept intact for you, so that you should not have any say on the day of judgment to God that I did not receive the information correctly.
Yeah, I mean that's an argument in law in a way, isn't it? That in the law they say, well, you say that, and I don't know anything about that law. So well, if that's ignorance of the law is not a defence in a way, is it?
Exactly.
Well, I want to go back to the point about
Sure.
the maker.
Yeah.
And about following instructions set out 1400 years ago, and how important it is, like,
So
1400 years later, to be able to have a debate.
Yeah. So
Conversation,
so now,
discussion about every aspect, and that to be open.
yeah.
So that it's not, it's not simply that I must follow those commands. It should be that every single person can have a talk individually about how they feel, think about these things,
Yeah.
in order that they are satisfied and happy, if you like, or feel that it's understandable and makes sense. Because what I do not really like when somebody's trying to say, you must do what I say, which a lot of men or a lot of authority figures, a lot of leaders, is what they're trying to do. Even the law, you will do as I say.
Yeah.
I'll
tell you something.
Hold on. You're not even.
I'll tell you something very amazing. You know, we human, we have an ego.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to human being, we can compete one another. But when it comes to the Creator, if He tells you to do something, if you don't do that, that shows your ego. Because ego should not be with a God, because God is ever living. We are a speck of dust, means we come from dust, become dust again. So why should you have that ego in place? Allah saying, submission to God is very important. And one of the story of the creation is the conversation between the devil and Adam. Allah instructed devils to bow down to Adam. Do you know why he didn't bow down? Do you know why he didn't bow down? Because he said, look at that. I was created from fire and he was created from clay. So I'm superior, so I cannot worship him or I cannot bow down to him. That is Allah showing this as an example. Do not be like Satan or devil, because he will have ego and that ego will prevent him to listen to the command of God.
Well, I mean, it's a very powerful thing, an ego. So many people are ruled by their own ego.
No, I'm not talking about so many. Forget about everyone else.
You're talking about
Allah. We're talking about Allah, the Maker. If Maker said something to you, He created you. My question is,
we should also create the ego.
No, He created the ego. Do you know why? So that He can test you. Because if the ego was given to me and ego was given to me, both of us, and if I apply the ego when it comes to matter of God and religion, when I see the truth, I don't hold my ego and say, I don't want to worship. I would say, no, I want to let go of my ego and I'm going to worship God. Now, if you don't do so, the same way,
I do take your point on that.
Right.
Because in order to connect, to feel, to start to feel something that's bigger than us, you have to let go of that
the ego. Yeah.
Because the ego is like a barrier.
Yeah.
It's like because I think a lot of people feel angry actually when they meet somebody with religious point of view. Say, no, don't talk to me about this, and or tell me how to live my life. And then they start hearing the message, but then they react angry. A lot of people react angrily, don't they? So they try to pull it apart.
A sincere person
that doesn't make
would.
sense and stuff like that. And it's only when you can get to a point of letting go of that, because it's a barrier, isn't it? I do follow that.
Yeah, and it not only that. Allah's telling in the Quran, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, means do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. Meaning,
I wouldn't go as far as saying the ego is Satan.
No, I'm saying no. I'm saying when the ego let you take you away from the truth, then that ego is bad. Because it's actually because of that ego, you are on the wrong path. But if you let off go the ego, you comprehend the information, and if you have the understanding of how, if you look at the example of Satan and example of Adam, what Adam did. Adam, out of forgetfulness, he ate the fruit, right? Then what did he did? He was not arrogant. What did he did? He straight away asked God, oh God, forgive me, I've done a mistake unknowingly, right? So Allah forgive him. So we have to have that attitude that, okay, if I do mistake, I got...
Because we always will.
Right.
We always will, because we're so fragile.
Exactly. But don't be like Satan.
But then know and then ask for mercy.
So, but don't be like Satan, which is who disobeyed, not only disobeyed, he was arrogant not to listen. So Allah saying, if you follow the path of Adam, you will be successful. Meaning, you have a repentant mode.
It's a nice picture of the first human who was completely flawed, who kind of disobeyed or followed things like human feelings, human wants and needs. Ate the apple and then realized he made a
mistake.
And then ask for forgiveness, and that's a human experience, isn't it?
So let's, for example, as a Muslim, when we are short in something, when we do something inaccurate or improper, Allah tells us to go back to Him asking for forgiveness. And Allah said, I love the one who asks for forgiveness. But Allah said, Inna Allah la yahdil qawma zalimin. Meaning Allah does not guide the one who do oppression, meaning who oppress to himself and oppress other. Oppressing yourself is meaning when the truth comes to you and you reject it. That's an oppression to yourself. And also oppression is when you're harming someone. So oppression does not necessarily mean...
Well, a lot of societies, a lot of leaders oppress their people.
Exactly. So everyone will be judged in the day of judgment. So it's no one is going to the paradise without the judgment. But Allah saying, Allah will judge accordingly. But the question is, we realize that happiness is not the truth. It may be a temporary happiness, but it does not lead to the truth. So do not follow your branding of your desire as your own perspective of life when God has laid down a full guidance. I mean, if God didn't give us guidance, we would have chosen our own way. But the problem is, the one who knows everything, the one who hears everything, the one who provides everything is already given us a guidance for us to follow. Now, just like I give an example, if you know the fire is there, you don't want to take risk in burning yourself. The same way Allah is keep telling every pages, submit and surrender, otherwise you are closer to the fire. Now imagine millions of times you hear that, and still you follow that rule.
It's like seeds thrown on barren ground, isn't it?
Exactly. So the millions time you have been provided information not to go there, but you still have that ego or something holding you.
Like a moth to a flame.
Yeah, exactly. So Allah is telling us that go وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا, means when you walk upon the earth, walk upon with humbleness. Do not be pride. Because why you are priding yourself? You were 1 point, Allah said, you are 1 point, you are nothing.
Yes, there's a lot of humility missing in a lot of people, isn't there?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm going to encourage you to look into the message. And you know what you'll find? You will find all of the message of the Quran will be applicable up until the day of judgment. Why? The Creator is all aware. He given the guidance in a such a way, it's not an obsolete for any generation, because it's laid down the foundation. We could, people are doing wrong, they probably change the momentum or change the way of doing it. The principally, everyone is doing the crime. And Allah telling us crime is something bad. And do not opt this process, but rather opt the process of goodness that Allah laid out. Allah saying, do you think وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةِ وَلَا السَّيِّئَاتِ? Are you saying good and bad are equal? So Allah is posing the question. And Allah saying, idfa billati hiya ahsan. So whenever someone do something bad, you do counter that with something goodness. Then your sworn enemy would be your devoted friend. Look at that teaching of the Quran. The teaching of the Quran, Allah said, go and pray for your parents, the one who look after in kindness. Do not destroy them or do not throw them away somewhere. They looked after you. Your mother bore you for 9 months. Be kind and compassion. The same book tells you, do not exchange your good with someone's bad.
Yeah.
Protect the yatim, protect the needy. In fact, all of the...
Usually all these things come back.
Look-
If you dish out negativity, it usually comes back
Yeah,
tenfold.
yes.
What's your name?
Aziz.
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 Yeah.
Michael.
Michael, so what your take would be from that discussion today?
My take as I think that...
Did I put you on the spot?
No, I'm going to walk in there, but I'll remember this conversation.
Shall I give you a copy of the Quran?
I've got one.
You got one.
So I think that it feels like there was purpose. Many a time you can walk through here and walk on, but you never know. This has
Maybe open the door.
some significance.
Makes significance, and I really enjoyed the discussion with
I
you
did.
because you brought up some of the amazing example, and we use that example to demonstrate that. And as a brother in humanity, I feel like this was a very a good conversation.
I do.
I feel that the connection that you are taking in. So I ask Allah, because look, end of the day, the guidance comes from Allah.
Yeah.
And Allah said, I'm gonna share you a verse.
And then I must go because
Yes,
I'm late to meet my friend.
yeah,
I shall have to tell them what I never got into Stratford Underground because it was a fire.
Yeah. So you know like sorry, this is on. This is, let's say, 50. Yeah. Allah said, "Huwallazi anzala as-sakinata fi qulubil mu'minin." You know this tranquility, the something, the happiness, the real happiness, not the fake happiness. This is something come from Allah. This is not something we grow. So when you realize the truth, when you realize Islam is the truth, then you will feel that connection. وَالَّذِي أَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, in the heart of the believer. And it's not the heart of anyone else but the believer. And the believer is someone who believes in Allah, believe in Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of God. And there are numerous prophecies he explained that come true, and that shows that he's a real prophet. And there are thousands of books has been written. about the life and biography in different
That
sources.
saying, where's it come from? Which part of the Quran?
So this is all over the world. Allah sent.
No, I
This
thought
is,
it was.
yeah,
that was
this
a
is
verse
in
from
yeah
the Quran.
yeah that's
So whereabouts in the Quran
in
is
chapter 48 verse 4.
it? 48:4.
Yeah, 48:4. I mean, you in anywhere in the, you
Just
know
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
it
Walladhi
kinda
anzala
sums- it kind of
sakinata.
sums up
Serenity. You know there's
sums up
serenity.
some of what we were saying.
Yes. So the serenity, anzala sakinata, meaning
48:4. Okay.
something sent down. So we don't, Allah given to us, meaning something was given to us. So when we are looking for happiness in a wrong avenue, Allah is saying, I will give you serenity, and that will be the real one, not the fake one you should chase.
It's a nice thought to finish with.
Look after yourself. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Aziz.
I hope we can catch up another time. We'll be
Sure.
here every Saturday.
Huh?
We'll be
you're
here every Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to live here. I lived at Shadwell. Now I have friends. I've been meeting friends, and I'm late now to see a friend. But I'm glad I stopped.
Look after yourself.
Aziz.
It's a pleasure talking to you. Interesting discussion, mashallah. So please make dua for him. He looks very sincere. I think the conversation flowed in different direction, but he reached in a certain age where he was mixing with people, he has different ideas. But whatever example he brought into conversation, I try to use it in a way that can be comprehensible to him. So I ask Allah to guide him, and I ask Allah to guide all of us. Let's not forget our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.